Moon Knight to me.
Okay, so basically nobody expected the MCU to last as long as it has, and after a decade and a half of adventures starring largely recognizable characters, Kevin Feige is grinding his fingertips down to stumps trying to scrape something exciting out of the splintering, blood-dampened bottom of the IP barrel. Hope you liked your Avengers, kids, because here comes 6 hours of live-action content starring Captain Who Gives a Shit and his nemesis, Obscurio.
Tom.
Hashtag Power Pack Movie 2023, everybody, but while we wait,
Tom.
let's slop ladles full of Moon Knight into the cultural trough.
Tom, please, I know all that already. I already have a Captain Who Gives a Shit Funko Pop. I meant explain Moon Knight the character.
Oh, sure. Okay, so basically, Mark Spector, aka Moon Knight, was first introduced back in 1975 as a mercenary who was hired by some bad guys to punch a werewolf to death.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's all decked out in werewolf fighting gear. Silver clothes, silver batarangs, brass knuckles, but they're silver. Everything you could ask for to fight a werewolf. It's sort of his thing.
Oh, metal, so he's a werewolf fighter.
Right. Until Marvel changed their minds.
Okay.
Not long after his first appearance, the writers decided that Moon Knight wasn't a guy who got hired to punch a werewolf to death. He wasn't a guy who got hired to punch a werewolf to death at all. He was actually a special forces veteran / mercenary chosen by the Egyptian moon god Khonshu as the embodiment of ancient justice.
Oh, thank God, being a werewolf fighter would have been ridiculous and difficult to believe.
Right. So basically, now Mark Spector was a man haunted by his nefarious past, using his not inconsiderable ill-gotten wealth to stop crime in its tracks with an assortment of gadgets, gizmos, and moon-related paraphernalia.
Oh, classic Marvel. Where's he operating?
New York City, baby!
NYC!
And it's a good thing, too, because before he showed up, the only superhero defending New York City was Spider-Man.
And the Fantastic Four.
Daredevil.
Doctor Strange.
All of the Avengers.
The X-Men were like 35 minutes out.
Punisher was usually around.
Luke Cage, Iron Fist.
Alpha Flight could probably swing by in a pinch, and so on. In any case, Mark Spector goes undercover by using auxiliary personas to infiltrate New York's underworld, then stomps out crime as the vigilante Moon Knight.
Okay, so Moon Knight investigates wrongdoings for the people of New York City by pretending to be other people, and then he dons a superhero outfit and fights for them.
Right, until Marvel changed their minds.
Okay.
As the story progressed, Spector was reimagined by different creative teams. While he once used disguises and alter egos to fight crime, it was later revealed that those personas were actually dissociated identities brought on by Spector's own psychological instability. And you know what that means.
Ill-conceived, poorly researched appropriation of mental illness for the sake of comic book malarkey?
You got it. Throughout the rest of the 80s and 90s, Moon Knight is saddled with all manner of catch-all pop psychiatric diagnoses. Sometimes he's schizophrenic. Sometimes he has dissociative identity disorder.
Okay, so Moon Knight is...
Until Marvel changed their minds.
Son of a bitch.
By the 2000s, Moon Knight had been retooled so many times that even he wasn't sure who he was anymore. Chosen avatar of an extra-dimensional Egyptian god, lunatic with a penchant for physical violence. Heck, the guy barely even hung out with werewolves anymore, and that used to be his whole thing. It was all overwhelming enough that he could barely ride his helicopter through downtown Manhattan anymore.
Wait, who let him get a helicopter?
Don't worry, he's not flying it. He has a French friend named Frenchie with a Pepe Le Pew accent and a little mustache. He's been doing that for him since day one.
Oh, wow, that sounds pretty stupid. So how has Frenchie changed over the years?
He hasn't. Marvel pretty much knocked it out of the park with him at their first at-bat.
So what kind of guys does Moon Knight fight?
All sorts of classic villains. There's an evil version of Moon Knight, and another evil version of Moon Knight. I'm pretty sure I brought up that there was a werewolf at one point. I could go on.
Oh, could you?
I could not, no.
Okay, good. So with so many takes on Moon Knight across the decades, what version of the character can we expect from the Disney Plus series?
That would be none of them.
I don't understand. What's this Moon Knight's deal?
Well, this version of Moon Knight is really less of a character and more of an opportunity for Oscar Isaac to carve his name into the third of four of the biggest film franchises in history.
Oh yeah, he has not popped up in Harry Potter yet, huh?
Well, never say never. He could always pop up in the inevitable Quidditch Through the Ages spinoff.
Yeah.
Nina, what can you tell me about Phase 2 of the MCU?
Okay, so basically the Marvel Cinematic Universe had already smushed half a dozen seemingly disparate characters into a cohesive narrative with the Avengers, beating the odds and spitting in the eye of hubris. But as we all know from the story of Icarus, there's only one thing you can do once you've flown too close to the sun.
Die horribly?
No, fly even closer to the sun and hope that Robert Downey Jr. doesn't get sick of money. That brings us to Iron Man 3. At this point, Marvel was eager to avoid the missteps of the last Iron Man movie, which fans decried as a retread of themes from the first. Evil business rivals of Tony Stark betraying his trust and attempt to build a more perfect fighting machine, all while Tony grapples with his troubled past. You know the drill.
Okay, so what happens in Iron Man 3?
An old business rival of Tony Stark betrays his trust in an attempt to build a more perfect fighting machine, all while...
Oh, okay. Who's the bad guy in this one?
Unimportant.
Oh.
There's a kid sidekick, though.
Oh.
Up next is Thor: The Dark World.
Oh.
Now, the MCU is already replete with MacGuffins at this point, and a grand plan was concocted to turn each successive MacGuffin into a more important Easter egg.
An egg MacGuffin?
It starts with the Aether, also known as the Reality Stone, which is used in the second Thor movie to change Natalie Portman from an agency-free kissing machine into a sick girl who needs a strong man to save her.
Nevertheless, she persisted.
Besides that, Thor 2 is a huge nothing burger. It just stars the guy who vocally hated being in Doctor Who as the guy who vocally hated being in this.
Alright, cool. Who's the bad guy in that one?
Unimportant. Captain America the Winter Soldier, on the other hand, saw the dawning of a new age in the MCU, introducing the Russo brothers to the director's chairs that an impish Kevin Feige slyly coated with superglue.
Uh-huh.
Add a dash of Robert Redford, a pair of semi-reunited World War II buddies with undeniable romantic chemistry, and a jumpy French guy who does kicking, and you've got yourself a recipe for success.
Now, I hope you don't mind me asking, but does this movie cover the dangers of drones and ideological extremism?
Oh, it certainly did.
Oh man, I would have hated it if the only movie from that era exploring those ideas was the RoboCop remake.
Right, and Star Trek Into Darkness.
The Bourne Legacy.
Oblivion.
The Giver.
X-Men Days of Future Past.
London Has Fallen.
Spider-Man Far From Home.
The Child's Play remake, and so on.
Yeah, right, just don't worry about it.
Okay.
By this point, the MCU stable of available A-list characters had more or less burned down, so a grand experiment was conducted in which a visionary indie director was handed a wad of D-list characters and told to do whatever he wanted. The result was a movie that brought Marvel into the stars and inadvertently fucked up the DC movies for almost a decade. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ooh, who's the bad guy in that?
Unimportant.
Yeah, okay, so Iron Man's had 3 movies at this point. Thor and Cap have each had 2. They gave one to a talking tree and a raccoon with a gun who've never even been to Earth. It's probably about time for a Black Widow movie, right?
So anyway, with 4 films worth of world building out of the way, it came time for a newer, bigger, more ambitious Avengers team up. Something fresh, something never before seen.
Something exploring the dangers of drones and ideological extremism.
Absolutely. In Avengers Age of Ultron, the team fights Tony's superciliousness in the form of a James Spader robot. On a grander scale, they fight the inevitability of the franchise's stars wanting to move on with their lives by introducing new, hungry actors that are comfortable with their contracts ending in an ellipses and a winky emoji. Vision, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver all make their debuts, and most of them don't even get shot to death. An epic battle is fought on a flying city between the forces of good and evil, culminating in the last-second circumvention of an extinction-level event.
Well, it sounds like Phase 2 of the MCU gets tied up in one heck of a bow, and I want to thank you
That's not the end of Phase 2.
It's not?
No, idiot. The end of Phase 2 is Ant-Man.
Oh. Well, what does that introduce to the universe?
Ant-Man?
Oh. Who's the bad guy in that one?
Oh, stepdads.
Talk about Thanos. Talk about Thanos. Talk about Thanos. Talk about Thanos. Talk about Thanos.
Oh, stepdads.
Fine. I'll do it myself. Thanos is in it.
Nina, tell me about Doctor Strange.
Okay, so basically, it's a tale as old as time. A man decides to learn magic tricks at the expense of ever getting to kiss a girl again.
Ah, yes, for this is the story of all magicians.
But what if I told you that in this particular case, the girl that the guy was never going to kiss again was Rachel McAdams?
Is this man a fool?
Quite the opposite, old sport. Rather, Dr. Stephen Strange is a cocksure ego dingus, the kind that MCU movies love to introduce in the first act.
Ooh.
Based on his accent, Strange hails from the same region of Anytown, USA as Dr. Gregory House, and boasts a cushy pad with a tasty view and $2 million worth of product placement from JLC watches alone, all thanks to his unparalleled expertise in the field of brain surgery.
Wow, he sounds smart as heck. How does he get his origin story?
By texting and driving. After smushing his fingerlings in a high-speed Lamborghini kerfuffle, Strange runs himself ragged trying to find a cure for busted-ass, nasty-ass, busted-ass hands. In a fit of desperation, he turns to wizards.
That's quite the pivot.
Look, desperate times. It turns out that there's an ancient sect of sorcerers that's been hiding in plain sight for eons.
How do they stay hidden?
Same way as the guys from Assassin's Creed, by dressing like the guys from Assassin's Creed. Anyway, in the slums of Nepal, Strange finds the Ancient One, a white lady claiming to have access to powerful alternative therapies derived from cultures not her own, played by...
Gwyneth Paltrow?
Nope, Tilda Swinton.
Another pivot.
Yeah, and the Ancient One punches Doctor Strange so hard that he wakes up in the liner art for a Tool CD, and Doctor Strange is all like, I don't know, this seems like good medicine to me, so he starts learning how to do magic.
Is he good at magic?
He's great. They specifically make a point of saying he's the best at magic that they've ever seen.
All right, what kind of magic does he do?
Oh, not much. He's not very good at it.
Sorry?
While all of his less talented classmates can turn the world into an MC Escher Klonopin nightmare and defy physics like someone rubbed kazooie on their banjos, Doctor Strange just does orange sparkler magic a little bit.
Just orange sparkler magic? He doesn't mess around with anything so powerful that it could blow up the world if he crosses the streams during the climactic final battle?
Well, not Now that you mention it, he learns a little tiny bit of green time travel magic, but his buddies tell him it's too dangerous to use before Act 3. Honestly, he's pretty much useless when the bad guy shows up halfway through the movie.
And who's the bad guy?
He's this ponytail that looks like he stared down the barrel of Elmer Fudd's gun to see if it was still loaded, who does scary red magic. He's mad that people die, and he doesn't think that they should do that.
Wow, well, he sounds like a superhero or a brain surgeon or something.
No, he's a dick.
Okay.
Doctor Strange makes friends with flying clothes while the bad guy tries to do a deal with an extra-dimensional monster mash to make it so nobody dies no more.
Okay, what's the monster mash's name?
Shower Moo.
Yeah, that can't be right.
Dwarf Shampoo.
Nina.
Ooh, Marmaduke.
Okay, it looks like it's actually Dormammu.
What'd I say? Anyway, the bad guy kills Tilda Swinton just enough that she can keep showing up in later projects. In the end, Doctor Strange beats the Monster Mash by leaning into the movie's psychedelic undertones and breaking out the 8 words that have brought stoners to their knees since time immemorial. What if you feel like this forever now?
Oh, God.
Yeah, he crosses the green time magic streams and becomes the guardian of reality, lamenting his lost chance to do kissing with Rachel McAdams and mastering the manipulation of time in the process.
Wait, so this is the story of a man who, given the power to control time itself, uses it to pine after Rachel McAdams?
Yep.
Isn't that the plot of About Time?
Yeah.
And the time traveler's wife?
Yes.
Man, people gifted with the quasi-omniscience of an ageless god sure do wind up falling in love with Rachel McAdams a lot.
I dare you to blame him. In between movies, Doctor Strange learns how to do pretty much whatever the plot of a given narrative requires. Between this and Thor Ragnarok, he figures out how to trap a god. Between Thor Ragnarok and Infinity War, he learns how to make 100 copies of himself and tie up Josh Brolin. The most impressive jump in power, however, comes between Endgame and Spider-Man No Way Home.
Because he learns to manipulate the minds of entire worlds and move beloved characters between dimensions?
No, he figures out how to do an American accent.
Whoa! Nina, talk to me about WandaVision.
Okay, so basically, WandaVision was the Marvel Cinematic Universe's very first television series.
Wait, what about all the Netflix series that came before it?
I don't know what that is.
What about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Peggy Carter?
I've never heard of those.
And what about the memorable shows on Hulu and Freeform like Runaways, Cloak and Dagger, Hellstrom?
Tom, you sound confused. Those shows definitely didn't happen.
What's that sound? What are you doing?
So basically, WandaVision is a bunch of things all at once. A villain origin story, an homage to classic television, an excuse for an amazing actress to effortlessly flex her chops while dressing up like a Halloween store employee. It's also a show about a witch and a robot who do kissing.
Well, that sounds kind of fun.
However, it is definitely not a show where a grieving woman enslaves an entire community while mourning her lost love.
It sounds like maybe that's what the show actually is.
It's not! Stop thinking that! But hey, remember that classic sitcom The Dick Van Dyke Show?
Sure.
Well, in the very first episode, Wanda and Vision have his boss over for dinner. Wanda needs to cook a delicious chicken dinner, but her reality-altering godlike powers turn the chicken into a bunch of eggs. Whoops, women, am I right?
I guess.
It's an adorable ode to classic sitcoms, like I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Choke by Chuck Palahniuk.
One of these things is not like the others.
Things definitely stay super normal in the second episode, where Vision battles his worst enemy, chewing gum, and Wanda tries to make friends with a bunch of wine moms. It's a real hoot.
Okay, yeah, what a fun premise, right? We're taking a couple of Marvel superheroes, we're putting them in a classic sitcom send-up.
I know, a beekeeper definitely doesn't mysteriously emerge from a sewer. Despite her husband's lack of genitals, Wanda doesn't become so pregnant so quickly that her organs are forced to violently shift inside of her as her abdominal tissue stretches like a rubber sheet across her distended torso. Also, there's a magic show.
That's horrifying. A magic show?
Is it?
What's that dinging noise? Are you winking? Are your eyes made out of xylophone?
Anyway, something that's important to know is that none of this is happening inside of a big pile of alternate reality jello, and there's definitely not a bunch of scientists, soldiers, and character actors from the outside world watching and planning to invade the jello and shoot Wanda right in her crazy little trauma noggin. It's such a fun show!
Whoa, hey, did you just say that they're gonna shoot Wanda in the head?
No!
Okay.
Anyway, back in the insanity jello that we're definitely not in, Captain Marvel's little buddy Monica shows up as a backdoor pilot for another show, while Wanda's grasp on reality gets shakier and shakier, but everything is fine, even wonderful, even though she gives birth to twins who age really quickly and nobody bats an eye.
Yeah, why isn't anyone in this town doing any eye batting about any of this, by the way?
Well, you see, they're all secret mind prisoners in constant screaming mental agony at being controlled by a powerful witch who's using them to process her trauma.
What?
Hey, remember Modern Family?
Hold on, just stop.
So does Wanda. There's a whole episode of the show where Wanda talks to the camera and eats nothing but cereal because she's got a case of the grumpies. She wears baggy clothing, says a couple of sassy one-liners from under a heavy blanket, and has a messy low ponytail. Hashtag relatable, hashtag Monday, hashtag wine moms.
Can we just jog back to the thing about the constant screaming and mental agony? Because I feel like we sort of zipped right past that. Maybe a little too quickly.
Wow, do you love Malcolm in the Middle?
Not really. I mean...
Great, because in a loving send-up of that 90s pop culture sitcom cornerstone, Wanda's gunshot victim brother comes back to life.
Wait, he comes back to life? Because he was literally dead.
It's a spooky Halloween episode!
Oh.
And besides, we only see his rotting corpse-like face once, and it's over super fast, so you barely even notice it. And also, Vision is actually dead, and everyone is screaming on the inside, and none of this is happening, and the Halloween store lady is actually the villain.
Wait, there are two zombies? Wait, who's the villain? Because I'm so confused right now.
Tom, it's really not that complicated. Wanda has a wacky sitcom neighbor named Agnes. She helps her and Vision out with their kooky problems, like cooking dinner for Vision's boss, getting their newborn twins to sleep while wearing 1980s-style aerobics gear, and killing a dog.
Yeah, sure sounds like a classic sitcom stand-up.
But Agnes is actually a powerful witch named Agatha Harkness, who's been alive since the 17th century and who was drawn to the immense power of the illusion Wanda created around this New Jersey Jell-O. She's there to steal Wanda's magical energy, but along the way she also drops a deuce on what's left of X-Men fans' goodwill and threatens to bite some kids. It's such a fun show!
Nina, are you doing okay? I need you to ding once for yes, ding twice for no.
Yeah, I'm totally fine. Totally fine. Why?
What is going on with you?
I'm fine. Here I am. Where am I? Anyway, pretty soon we find out that while it was Agatha all along, it was actually really Wanda all along.
How could it be both of them all along, though?
Then the two ladies remember they're in a Marvel thing and they have a big magic laser fight in the sky. There's lots of colorful explosions and wire work. It's fine. Pew pew.
All right. I was worried that this was starting to get a little too heavy. This is nice. This is good.
Then Wanda outsmarts her rival, imprisons her in her own brain, learns to accept that her husband is dead. The kids she loves with her entire heart are actually figments of her broken, diseased imagination, and that she spent several weeks torturing an entire town with living, constant agony as she used them like so many life-size therapy dolls. At the very end, Wanda reads from a demon book and hears the lamentations of her imaginary not kids crying from hell, probably.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Anyway, that's a WandaVision. It's a fun tribute to sitcoms of the past while blazing a wacky new trail for the MCU of the future.
I mean, that's not really what I got from it.
No?
No, it sounds kind of like it's about learning to confront your feelings and that you should deal with your pain constructively and that it's maybe all too easy to use and manipulate others in order to live in denial.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, what you're saying is I should probably free that family I've tied up in my basement, huh?
I'm sorry, the what?
I'm kidding.
I was...
Tom, I need you to tell me all about Morbius the Living Vampire.
Okay, so basically...
Wait, you actually know stuff about Morbius the Living Vampire, right? You're not just gonna read the Wikipedia page for Morbius the Living Vampire and regurgitate information?
What? Of course not.
It's just that Morbius the Living Vampire seems a little obscure even by your standards.
What are you talking about? Everybody loves Morbius the Living Vampire.
They do?
Nina, please. I, like most children, grew up simply adoring Morbius the Living Vampire. Oh, I had Morbius the Living Vampire lunchboxes, Morbius the Living Vampire bed sheets for my Morbius the Living Vampire bed. Me and the other children from the neighborhood would gather around the playground. We'd play Morbius the Living Vampire, and boy, did we get into it when it came time for us to argue over who got to be Morbius the Living Vampire and who had to be his archenemy.
His archenemy...
His archenemy, blood diseases.
Tom.
Also Spider-Man.
Tom.
Boy, none of the kids wanted to be Spider-Man when Morbius the Living Vampire was on the table. Or blood diseases.
Tom, do you know about Morbius the Living Vampire or not?
I know plenty about Morbius the Living Vampire.
All right, prove it. I'll ask you questions about him and you will close your eyes and answer them.
Done.
Why is he called Morbius the Living Vampire?
Let's see, because Morbius is his last name.
Bullshit.
It's true. His name is Michael Morbius.
All right, I'm looking it up.
It's Greek.
Son of a bitch.
Wait, I was right?
Okay, what makes him a living vampire as opposed to a regular vampire?
All right, let's see here. Well, you know how regular vampires are allergic to the sun, bite other people, spread their disease, and thirst for human blood?
Uh-huh.
Well, let's say that living vampires do all that stuff too, but they're not magic. They're science.
They're science.
They're science vampires, Nina.
What kind of science?
You know, bat science, electric science. It's electric bat science, pretty much.
Okay, I'm looking it up.
You take 1 part electricity, 1 part bat.
Son of a bitch!
You got yourself a living vampire. Morbius, the living vampire, to be specific.
Right, again.
Weird.
Okay, what are his powers?
This is fun. Okay, let's say the standard stuff, like super speed, like super strength, advanced healing, and let's throw in a curveball. How about hollow bones?
Wow, you're 100% right.
This is so easy. I'm really good at this. I should have been a comic book writer back in the 70s. I know how to be drunk all the time.
Wait, according to this, he's a conflicted sometimes hero who must feed on human blood in order to survive?
It's not a big deal, Nina. You can be a hero and also kill people for sustenance.
How?
Well, I mean, you'd still root for Bruce Banner if the only way that he could turn into the Hulk was by, I don't know, eating a kid.
No.
You'd still like Iron Man if his arc reactor was powered by human bone marrow.
Tom, is everything about Morbius the living vampire really stupid?
Depends on who you ask.
Okay, go on.
Well, a man torn between two worlds by a curse he didn't ask for, ever on the brink of hurting the ones that he loves thanks to his own hubris. To you and me, that might seem like trite and hackneyed storytelling.
Yeah, and it does.
But the use of vampirism as a metaphor for loneliness, addiction, and inadvertently harming those closest to you probably seems like a deep well of emotional complexity if you're, say, the kind of person who used to make a living writing lyrics for 30 Seconds to Mars.
No, please don't tell me.
Jared Leto's in this movie.
No.
Oh, yes.
Why would they do this? Why muddy the waters of success by throwing a troubled-leading man at a half-thought-out project with, at best, a 50% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes lurking in its future? Why would Marvel do this?
They didn't. Sony did.
Oh.
Nina, tell me all about Groot.
Okay, so basically, Groot is so much more than just the easiest paycheck that Vin Diesel ever cashed. He's also a space tree with a long list of special skills. He grows.
Red.
He dies.
Oh, no.
He controls plants.
Oh, neat.
He dies.
Oh, no.
He does healing stuff and does pretty lights and makes flowers for little girls.
Well, that sounds pretty nice. I really...
He dies. See, Groot goes all the way back to the comic books of the 1960s. Far from bringing the danciest little merch bomb in the MCU that we know today, he was a tree monster from Planet X with a hankering for human experimentation. His plan was to make a bunch of trees grow their roots under a town, then use those roots as a net to pick up the town, then use the trees to fly the town into space through the power of, I don't know.
If you took a town full of people into space without a ship or spacesuits, everyone would die before they could be experimented on, right?
He wouldn't necessarily kill all of them.
He would.
Yes, Tom, he would. He tree, of course he would. But he also so much more than that. The first Groot, despite his self-proclaimed invulnerability, was killed by Earth's humblest creatures, an army of genetically modified termites created by a scientist with no regard for nature's delicate balance.
Yeah, that's how I want to go.
Then another Groot got killed by the Hulk. Then another Groot got killed by space robots. Then that same Groot, self-immolated, died in a secret war and got smushed by the gardener. This guy is just bonkers for dying, but he always comes back when someone nabs a cutting off of him and grows a new Groot. He just won't stay dead.
Well, why would he?
He would because he tree, Tom. Not that hard. That's why contemporary versions of the character can only say, I am Groot. His vocal cords are all stiff and splintery.
Wait, how does that work?
That's how tree vocal cords work, Tom. Read a fucking book.
All right. What about in the movies?
Totally different. In the movies, Groot says, I am Groot, and dies, and I'm kidding. It's pretty much the exact same deal.
Okay. How does that one die?
He turns into a friendly bondage roll cage to save his buds from falling down.
But he doesn't die permanently because somebody saves a cutting.
Yeah, a really cute one. After that, it's pretty much Merch O'Clock. Groot got the Kinder Schema treatment, turning baby for the sake of better Funko sales, in a move that had never been used quite so effectively and never would again.
Except for Baby Yoda.
And Baby Sonic.
Baby Mr. Peanut.
Baby Blue the Velociraptor.
Muppet Babies.
Oh, Baby Shreks.
Baby Pogo.
Baby Stay Puffs. The RNC's famously heartwarming Baby Mitch McConnell rebranding, and so on. Still, the little wooden boy got into plenty of hijinks. He saw the cosmos, killed a lot of guys, and kept at least one toe as a trophy. And the most incredible adventure of all, he went through puberty.
Wow.
Then he went to a gun store with a stranger he'd just met who claimed to be a god and cut off his own arms so the god guy could try to hit a different guy with a hammer until he died.
Whoopsie poopsie.
Then at the end of Infinity War, he helped to perpetrate perhaps the greatest mass emotional battery on America's youth on record when he was turned into intellectual property funfetti alongside Spider-Man, Star-Lord, and every kid's favorite, Michael Douglas of Wall Street 2 Money Never Sleeps. Luckily, they all come back.
Groot, for lack of a better word, is good.
And even more luckily, the days of shamelessly shilling by turning established characters into baby versions of themselves seems to be in the rearview mirror.
Like and subscribe for even more highly cerebral content, mommy.
Nina, would you please tell me about Ms. Marvel?
Okay, so basically, I want you to picture a standard Marvel superhero.
All right.
How would you describe them?
A perfect narrative personification of the struggles inherent in belonging to a minority group?
How else would you describe them?
You said a standard Marvel superhero, right?
Yep.
White.
So in 2013, Marvel introduced Kamala Khan, a teenage girl living in Jersey City. Kamala personified all of the values that Marvel fans admire: tenacity, optimism, and courage in the face of adversity. She also exhibited the values most important to Marvel executives:
Namely?
spending money on Marvel-branded products.
Nice.
Kamala has Captain Marvel posters,
No way!
branded Avengers plushies and decorations,
Wow, I want to be just like her.
hallucinations where godlike versions of the Avengers tell her that she's destined for greatness.
Oh, yeah, well, that's no big deal. I mean, I get those all the time.
Tom, are you drinking Shinex brand window cleaner again?
So what's up with these hallucinations?
Well, Tom, Kamala is an Inhuman. Do you know about the Inhumans?
Please, assume that I know absolutely nothing.
The Inhumans are people who get wild and wacky powers when they're exposed to science fiction vape clouds and then form a cocoon around themselves and then leave the cocoon.
Yeah, that just sounds like X-Men with extra steps.
It is, and when those extra steps happen to Kamala, she cocoons up good, has a dream where Captain Marvel talks shop with her a little, and then she wakes up blonde and white.
The same thing happened to me. I just quantum leaped into this body like 30 minutes ago.
Aw, drink your blue juice. Ms. Marvel has developed into a polymorph, a groovy combination of Mr. Fantastic and Ant-Man. Her new look is the result of her shape-shifting abilities being taken over by her subconscious desire to look more like the overwhelmingly Caucasian superheroes that she grew up admiring. As time goes on, she realizes that she can actually be exactly who she already is and that she shouldn't have to change anything about herself just to make people like her.
Nice. And that's what the Disney Plus show is about.
Hard to say. For the show, they changed a lot of stuff about the character to make people like her.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, her powers are different. In the comics, she can stretch and shrink and grow and shapeshift, whereas the show seems to have her wearing Moon Man bracelets and gaining the power to turn her body into, ring pops.
But why would they make such a fundamental change to the character's backstory and powers, especially when they seem so intrinsically linked to the protagonist's moral oeuvre?
Excuse me?
Why girl no stretch on TV?
Oh, there's an easy explanation. See, Disney is trying to make a lighthearted, superpowered high school romp, not the Ms. Marvel body horror half hour of power.
What do you mean?
Who was the last CGI stretchy character that you saw in a movie?
Mr. Fantastic?
What about before that?
The other Mr. Fantastic.
And before that?
The other Mr. Fantastic.
And did any of them look good?
No, they looked like something that Guillermo del Toro made out of silly putty.
Yeah, believe me, sparkly space bedazzling was the pragmatic choice.
So what can we expect to see pulled from the comics, if not, the main character?
Hard to say, Tom, but it does not look good. Kamala probably won't be up against her original nemesis from the comics, since it's a giant cockatiel with the mind of Thomas Edison.
Man, this stuff really gets you where you want to go.
She won't get her first superhero team-up since it was originally with Wolverine, and the MCU has a strict policy of only bringing mutants to the table if it means that they get to kill Professor X on screen for like the 6th or 7th time.
I love it when Professor X dies.
Still, there are some corners of the character's history that look like they're gonna sneak through. Kamala seems set to retain her optimism, her loyalty to her family, her energetic pluckiness, and most importantly, her "with great power comes great responsibility" catchphrase.
Oh, cool. She's got one of those?
She sure does, and it's a good one. Kamala's old man teaches her that good isn't something you are, it's something you do.
Wow. Good isn't something you are.
That's right.
It's something you drink.
Call ended.
Tom, I think maybe you're overdoing it on the... Tom?
Today's episode was brought to you by Shinex brand window cleaner. All the clean with just half the calories. Buff them guts with Shinex. Nina, tell me about She-Hulk.
Okay, so basically, She-Hulk attempts to answer the age-old question. What if Hulk was she? She follows in the high-heeled footsteps of several other gender-flipped super chicks from comic book history. Or should I say, herstory.
Please don't.
Nevertheless, I persisted, so shut up.
Sorry.
As I was saying, there is no shortage of superheroes who look better as ladies. Superman meets Supergirl. Move over, Batman. Batgirl's in town. Sick of Hawkeye and his stupid bow and arrow? Well, here's Hawk Gal and her stupid bow and arrow.
Actually, I think that the girl Hawkeye is actually just called Hawkeye.
Actually, the plural of Pokemon is Pokemon. I told you to shut up.
I'm sorry.
Okay, where was I?
Girls are cuter than boys.
Ah, that's right. She-Hulk is the tall, green, and super strong alter ego of Jennifer Walters, the cousin of Bruce, the Incredible Hulk, Banner.
So, being the Hulk's cousin can make you a Hulk? But by that logic, shouldn't I be a bus driver or a kindergarten teacher or sell drugs out of a Pizza Hut parking lot so I can save up for DJ equipment?
No, being the Hulk's cousin does not make you a Hulk, but being shot by a mobster and needing a blood transfusion and having the Hulk be the only nearby compatible donor does make you a Hulk.
Got it. Siri, cancel my upcoming kidney transplant from cousin DJ Pepperoni.
Okay,
Flushing donor kidney. Should I order your regular Uber to Pet Cemetery rear entrance?
Anyway, once she gets cousin Brucey's funky psychedelic blood all up in her, she turns into the sensational She-Hulk and takes on all kinds of bad guys with her super strength.
Okay, so she goes superhero. Does she join any super teams?
Oh yeah, she joins a bunch of super teams. There's the Avengers, there's the Fantastic Four, there's the New York office of Goodman, Lieber, Kurtzberg, and Holloway.
I'm sorry, what's that now? I didn't recognize that last one.
It's a law firm.
She-Hulk's a she-lawyer?
Flag on the play, but yes, She-Hulk contains multitudes. She may spend a lot of her time punching villains in the face while wearing spandex, but her real superpower is her expertise in torts and corporate law.
Lots of superheroes wear torts.
Tom, final warning.
Right, so she follows in Daredevil's footsteps by working to uphold and support the legal system by day and totally ignoring laws against vigilantism by night?
Yeah, pretty much.
And she uses her strength to keep other superheroes from getting blisters when they run?
No, that's Shoe-Hulk.
And she has trouble meeting other people at parties because she's afraid that her strength makes her intimidating?
No, that's Shy-Hulk.
And she starts a musical circus to prove that everybody deserves to be loved for who they are?
No, that's the Greatest Show Hulk.
Yeah, how many more of these do we need to do?
Well, it's like a 4-minute episode, and there's not a lot to the source material here.
Well, that gag isn't going to carry us all the way to Mordor. If we pivot to the character's publication history, am I going to wish that we had kept doing f***y little puns instead?
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, good enough. What's the character's publication history like?
Well, She-Hulk was created by Stan Lee. Because Marvel wanted to make sure that they own the rights to a Girl Hulk in case CBS wanted to make a spin-off from the adventures of David Banner.
Don't you mean Bruce Banner?
No, in the TV series, they changed Bruce's name to David because the studio thought Bruce sounded too effeminate.
And then they introduced a girl version of the character when they thought there might be money in it.
Yup.
Does she date anyone nice?
Yep, a werewolf from the moon.
And does she keep skin moist with the power of rejuvenating hydration?
No, that's She-Hulk.
And she doesn't ferry people across the metropolitan areas with the help of a handcart and super strength?
No, that's Rickshaw Hulk.
And she didn't star in the first season of The Boys?
No, that's Elizabeth Shue Hulk.
And that's time. Siri, text cousin DJ Pepperoni. So listen, I'm gonna need another kidney, bud. Nina, catch me up on Thor.
Okay, so basically, you know how folks generally take a pretty grim view of dudes walking around and hitting stuff with hammers?
Whoa, hey, if you're asking if I've ever been arrested at a Home Depot, I think we both know the answer is yeah, plenty of times.
Right. Now imagine if while you were shattering that gazebo display, you'd had an extra 70 pounds of muscle and a perfect Australian smile that could make the kookaburras sing. Would store security have ejected you from the lawn and garden section quite so readily?
No, I imagine they just sit there and watch and drool and swoon and think about giving me little kisses.
Right. You're pretty much caught up on Thor.
Please go on.
So for the last decade and change of the MCU, Chris Hemsworth and a spectrum of directors have told the increasingly beefy story of Thor Odinson, the literal Norse god of thunder.
Wow, so Thor is real in this universe? There's a religion that's demonstrably real, and it's the one that the Vikings believe?
Yeah, but it's really not a big deal. A lot of religions are real in the MCU. Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, the one where you drink purple stuff and yell at your dead dad.
Hey, I join that religion about twice a year at EDM festivals.
Thor has a whole mess of friends and family members with a colorful array of skills, but the one thing that they all have in common is their unparalleled ability to die.
Sorry?
There's his mom who gets stabbed by elves. There's his friends who get stabbed by his sister. His sister gets squished by the bad guy from Fantasia. His brother gets suffocated by a grape-flavored space daddy. And his dad just gets kind of sleepy one day and turns into the bottom of a bottle of Goldschlager.
Wow, and they're all gods?
Yeah, just about.
Man, being an immortal sure has a high mortality rate. And am I to understand that this Thor fellow hits things with a hammer?
With a couple of hammers, yes. His first hammer, Mjolnir, is an all-powerful weapon, only able to be lifted by the worthy and completely unbreakable.
Ooh, and what happens to that one?
Someone unworthy lifts it and it breaks.
Fiddlesticks.
Still, that hammer gets him through a whole slew of adventures.
Ah, guy and his hammer. What's the first one?
Well, Thor doesn't have his hammer. After that, he teams up with the Avengers to stop his brother from conquering Earth, fights Doctor Who to stop his girlfriend from dying of space snot, and then teams up with the Avengers again when Iron Man makes a smart speaker that kills people. But that's when things start to get weird.
They do?
See, Marvel seemed positive that Thor was something special, but they weren't sure what to do with him. Helpfully, Hollywood felt very much the same way about director Taika Waititi at the time, and these two great tastes tasted great together in Thor Ragnarok, the goofiest, cartooniest, and somehow most emotionally affecting entry in the MCU to that point.
Oh, and that's the other one where Thor loses his hammer, right?
Right. He learns that his real power was inside of him all along. He doesn't need the hammer, and he never did.
Dope. What happens in the next movie?
He needs a hammer.
Makes sense.
By Infinity War, Thor's homeworld has been destroyed, and he has to help defeat the biggest bad guy yet, so he spends most of the movie helping his buddy jumpstart a hammer-making oven. The result is Stormbreaker, an even more unbreakable hammer designed specifically to kill Thanos.
Does it work?
No. Then yes, then no again. Endgame's kind of a lot.
Okay.
Anyway, then Thor gets a case of the Mondays for 5 years, and much like everybody else during the top half of the 2020s, he drinks too much and he puts on a lot of weight.
The hero we deserve.
After Thanos is defeated, he heads off with the Guardians of the Galaxy to try to find some inner peace, but his quest for balance is interrupted by the arrival of a god-hating villain named Gore and the introduction of Thor's old girlfriend, who has Thor's old hammer and has now become a new Thor.
There's 2 Thors?
2 Thors in Thor 4!
So in Thor 4, Thor, one more Thor, Star-Lord, and 4 or so more soar toward war with Gore, who abhors Thor and all he stands for?
All that and more is now in store!
Oh, score!
Alright, Tom, if you're not going to be mature about this, I'm going to hang up on you.
Thori. Nina, hey, let's talk about Phase 3 of the MCU.
Okay, so basically, the second phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe went sliding into home with its pants all full of Age of Ultron foam. As a result, the feeling in the room was very much that audiences needed to focus on solo films and take a break from the Avengers movies.
Legitimate.
With that in mind, Marvel released Captain America: Civil War.
What was that about?
It was an Avengers movie.
Oh.
Long story short, most of the Avengers have a contract dispute. Thor, Hulk, and Sam Jackson pursue personal projects around this time, on account of how any one of them could have put a bow on the conflict faster than Quicksilver catching a bullet with his sternum.
What's the fight about?
Captain America thinks that superheroes should be independent contractors, while Tony says that their actions should be transparent, subject to oversight, and legally defensible.
Oh, how does Iron Man defend his position?
By blackmailing a child, disguising his identity, and illegally smuggling him overseas.
Uh-huh.
Everyone breaks up and Cap forgets to buy a razor for like 2 years. Speaking of, next up is Doctor Strange, a $200 million microdose of DMT about a man whose hands get squished so bad that he can't hold a fork, but somehow not badly enough to stop him from meticulously carving a magnificent Van Dyke. He starts wearing the flying carpet from Aladdin and learns how to conjure the plots of like 4 out of the next 14 movies.
He sounds handy. Wait, is that ironic?
I don't know. Moving on, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 continues in the grand tradition of the first Guardians movie by paying the mortgages of a bunch of singers from the 70s. In it, Star-Lord learns that his father, due to his rejection of society and willingness to kill to achieve his own ends, is bad.
Oh, that's a shame.
Then there's Spider-Man: Homecoming, a charming throwback to John Hughes pictures of the 1980s, mixed with the homicide-capable youth of the John Hughes pictures of the 90s. In it, Spider-Man learns that his girlfriend's father, due to his rejection of society and willingness to kill to achieve his own ends, is bad.
Oh, that's a shame.
And of course, there's Black Panther, in which T'Challa learns that his father, due to his rejection of society and willingness to kill to achieve his own ends, is basically alright, just sort of misguided.
Oh, that's pretty
But
interesting.
his cousin is bad.
Oh, that's a shame. Wait, what about Thor Ragnarok?
Oh, right. Remember how Edgar Wright got canned from directing Ant-Man because he wanted to make something tonally unique and comedic?
Oh, yeah.
Right, well, Taika Waititi turned Thor Ragnarok into a synth-backed 2-hour hybrid of Heavy Metal Magazine and Jack Kirby collages. Lo and behold, it's still one of the best movies in the Marvel stable.
So it sounds like they got a good product just by trusting a talented artist to do what he does best and having faith that the audience would be smart enough to get behind it.
This is gonna sound crazy, but that strategy kept paying dividends. 2018 saw the biggest franchise spectacle to date thanks to the Russo brothers, the directorial team responsible for making an anabolic war veteran into one of Marvel's most interesting properties. Infinity War has everything.
I'm intrigued. Is there a father who rejects society and is willing to kill to achieve his own ends?
Less of a father and more of a daddy. The film opens with Thanos, a spaceman who looks like if Wreck-It Ralph had his head replaced by a California singing raisin. He kills Loki and Idris Elba and Thor's entourage on screen and Glenn Close while you're not looking.
Sounds like somebody didn't get Glenn close enough to the producers.
Space Daddy wants all of the Planeteer's power rings, and he's got 2 of them by the time the opening title hits the screen. Iron Man and Doctor Strange and Wong and Spider-Man fight Frollo and Bad Ben Grimm to protect Doctor Strange's Planeteer ring, then most of them go to Jupiter. Also, Captain America, who'd been gone for a while, unceremoniously shows back up with a big beard and doesn't do much.
Wow, what a thing to do to your friends. I bet he expected everybody to thank him for it, too.
Probably. Great having you back, by the way. Also in space, Thor teams up with Groot and Rocket to go help Peter Dinklage jumpstart his car so he can make a new cosplay accessory. That takes up most of their screen time in a 2-hour and 20-minute movie.
Sounds like it's some accessory.
It's a rock on a stick, but yeah, it's whatever. Thanos has a competition to see if he can explode more scenery than Benicio del Toro can chew, ending with Thanos winning another glow rock. Then he takes his kid to go see a Hugo Weaving impersonator, and he chucks her off a cliff.
Yeah, celebrity impressions always make me cranky, too.
With that, there's only 2 Planeteer rings left, the one that Doctor Strange wears as a necklace and the one that Paul Bettany keeps in his noggin. Most of the Guardians meet those other guys on Jupiter to try and stop Thanos from getting the necklace one, but Doctor Strange is like, trust me, I'm a doctor, and he gives it to Thanos anyway. Also, Iron Man gets Stark kebabbed.
Oof, that's rough.
Thanos isn't done yet, though. He travels to Earth, killing Vision to collect his brain rock and snapping away half of the population of the universe. Dozens of juicy IPs disappear in an instant. Spider-Man, most of the Guardians, but the worst is yet to come.
What could be worse than that?
Think Star Wars. Think Back to the Future. What's the cruelest move that a media franchise can pull on its heavily invested audience?
I don't know, a cliffhanger that they'll have to wait a hopelessly long time to have resolved it. Oh God. Okay, so now it's time for Avengers Endgame, right?
Tom, go ahead and hold your horses.
Okay.
Get a hold of those horses, pal. You gotta walk before you can run, and no movie took a walk quite like Captain Marvel, a film that asked, what if Nick Fury dropped a Deus Ex Machina in the toilet back in 1995 and never bothered to fish it out of the U-bend?
And now it's time for Avengers Endgame, right?
Oh my god, what are all these horses doing here? Why isn't anybody holding them? I just wish some responsible equestrian with good, strong hands would get in here and hold these horses. See, you gotta take baby steps before you can walk, and nobody takes smaller steps than Ant-Man. In his second outing, Scott got trapped in time, Hope got a super suit, Hank got a new old lady friend, and audiences who skipped Ant-Man 2 got to feel confused when Michelle Pfeiffer showed up for 10 seconds in Avengers Endgame.
So now it's time for Avengers Endgame, right?
You know, it's a funny thing about horses, Tom.
Nina?
Most people think that they want oats and hay, but the truth is most horses just want to be held.
Nina!
I mean, we haven't even talked about Team Darrow yet.
Nina, so now it's time for Avengers Endgame, right?
Fine, yes, Avengers Endgame, the culmination of more than a decade of meticulous world building, tactful corporate maneuvering, and astonishing amounts of patience on the part of the audience for pithy, irredeemable white guys turning their lives around in their 40s. Thanos is alive, then he isn't, then he is because of time travel, which allows the film to take viewers on a carefully polished studio tour of memorable moments in the franchise. As with real studio tours involving stuff that Joss Whedon made, Joss Whedon is not invited. Hulk manages to do the impossible by combining his warring sides after years of torment, but still gets fewer plot beats than Captain America's little bottom.
I'll salute those shorts.
The whole thing culminates in a battle royale par excellence. Gods stand toe-to-toe with soldiers, kings, and the world's brightest minds as the film's third act reaches its climax. This monumental sequence perfectly weaves a tapestry of breathtaking, edge-of-your-seat cinematic storytelling that Letterboxd user Joker Society 420 deemed, and I quote, 7 out of 10, the girl power seemed a bit contrived.
Uh-huh.
By the time the credits roll, Robert Downey Jr. gets to spend more time with his family. Scarlett Johansson makes history by becoming one of just 2 women to fall off something in an MCU movie and not have anyone catch her. And Chris Evans doesn't have to do push-ups anymore.
And is that the end?
Almost. Spider-Man Far From Home sets an important standard for things to come in Phase 4 by introducing the multiverse and then not being sure what to do with it, while also honoring traditional on-screen Spider-Man storytelling by putting a football in the shape of a father figure in front of Peter Parker and then cacklingly pulling it away just before he makes contact.
Good enough. Hey, you mentioned Phase 4. What's that all about?
Huh, that's a good question. Wakanda Forever was the last movie in Phase 4, so I'm sure they'll figure that out any day.
Oh my god. Oh, that was terrifying.
Oh, hey, Brian.
Oh, that was the scariest shit of my life. How long was I gone?
Yeah, honestly, I hadn't even clocked you as being gone.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys want help making a video or something, or?
Yeah, that's okay.
Because I can help, you know. Like,
No.
Yeah, we'll catch you later, man.
Call ended.
hey, honey, I'm back.
Wait, who?
Your husband, Brian.
Oh, God.